Buffs Nation, what is going on? I'm coming at you with my third video of the day, I think, or maybe it's second. I can't remember, but giving you a late night video here, wanting to talk about how Coach Prime has broken the prediction models. Looking back, I mean, maybe this video might be something to save and might make me look like a genius, maybe, or maybe it will backfire in my face. I don't know. But right now, I'm feeling good enough to come on here and give a theory of why I feel like these prediction models are so wrong. And with people that have followed this team so closely over the last 9 months or so, why we feel so different about this team than, for instance, that one guy, Tom, what's his name? Tom uh, Fumigill or whatever his name is, the guy for Yahoo Sports that came out and said that Colorado has possibly the worst roster in FBS football or college football. Or, I mean, even if you're looking at the Vegas odd makers, why they're putting the over under win total right now at 3.5. Yeah, but before I get started, please hit that like. And as always, let me know in the comments who's checking out this video so I can say hi to you guys. But man, I could not go to bed without getting this out. I mean, it's been a long day for me. Um, yeah, work. I kind of got two different contracts going on right now, so it's been a bit busy. It's great work that I enjoy, but still wanting to make sure that I schedule time to give y'all consistent content now that I'm back from vacation, all the way up here until Saturday. So whenever you're watching this, please let me know who's tuning in. It's always great to see you guys in the comments. So let's go ahead and get started. This is my theory. So why is it that all of us that are following this team, similar to how I have felt with the Denver Nuggets over the last handful of years, so many people in the media or the Vegas odd makers didn't really understand what this team was all about. We kept saying, just wait till Murray's back, just wait till Porter's back, all this, and then everything clicks, right? We go on and win the championship once everybody's healthy. I kind of feel that way right now with the Buffs. I mean, we see it on Twitter. We see that everybody is predicting us to get blown out on Saturday, for us to, lose by 21 plus. Right now, the over under, I think, is 21 and a half points. TCU's ranked 17th. We're unranked. But what got me thinking about all this and my theory was I was looking at an SI article about it was talking about the preview between Colorado and TCU. And let me just pull it up here so I can make sure that I read this correctly. Yeah. So TCU odds, the computers are siding strongly with the Horned Frogs, who have a 91.7% chance to win the game outright, according to the model that predicts winners by simulating 20,000 games, or simulating the game 20,000 times. Colorado odds, that leaves Coach Prime and the Buffs to a meager 8.3% shot to pull off the upset, not earning the confidence of the analytics crowd after that active offseason, nor indeed from the bookmakers. Now, why is that? I mean, it's great that you can run a model 20,000 times and then take the average to, understand probabilities and results and all. But Coach Prime has broken this sort of model. If you're not following what's going on with this football team closely, which if you are not a Coach Prime fan or you are not a Colorado fan, I do not blame you. It makes, like, I understand. I don't do this professionally, right? Like, I'm just a fan. So when I'm going to check out other teams' preview matchups, like, I only know so much. I guess maybe the difference is that these media heads, these talking heads, promote themselves as experts, when clearly they're speaking on a subject that they are not experts on, because they can't name a player on the roster if his name does not end in Sanders, does not end in Hunter, or does not end in McLean. That's really just the reality of it. Now, when you look at these algorithms, that's great that you can run these things 20,000 times and take the average results, right? But this is my theory. I don't think a lot of these models accurately account for the players coming in here from Jackson State. They don't accurately account for and wait for somebody like Coach Prime, who has had a successful coaching track record. I would assume that a lot of these models go off of what what these teams did last year. They don't account for having 80 new players on the team. That's just my hunch. They these computers have never seen that. We don't see that in college football, where a roster gets flipped over completely the way that this has happened. And so a lot of these models and predictions, they're weighing in um, past records by these teams. They're they're looking at the quarterback play from you know the FBS level. Now, Shador Sanders, I would assume that these models don't wait for him correctly, because he was not an FBS level football player last year. He put up better numbers than, like I've said, guys who were drafted in the first round, having played in the FCS level, such as Carson Wentz, Trey Lance, Joe Flacco. Shador Sanders has blown all of them out of the water at a younger age at the FCS level. And I don't think that these models accurately um, understand the type of quarterback that Shador Sanders is. They forget that he basically had his pick of the litter in terms of what powerhouse football program he wanted to go to, such as Alabama, right? It's probably the most famous offer that he had coming out of high school. You see that with a guy. You also see this with a guy like Travis Hunter, that is talked about very highly by certain people in the college football landscape. But again, he doesn't have that production. He was hurt a little bit last year, and again at the FCS level. And I think too, even with the holdovers, that you can say, okay, like they can build in data for the performance of Trevor Woods or Jared Christian Lichtenhan or Van Wells, the few holdovers that we have, or Louis Passarello, Caleb Fourier, right? Yes, that is true, but you also have to look at um, the coaching staff. You have to look at what they were being asked to do. Now with Bill O'Boyle, they have a real offensive line coach. Now we know Trevor Woods definitely has some legit secondary coaching, and that just wasn't happening here in the last few years here at CU, where the coaching was adequate. It was at a decent level. These guys weren't being coached well at all. And you look at last year, Carl Durrell survived maybe the first four games or 5 games. And then you have Mike Sanford take over as interim head coach. Defensive coordinators fired, all this turnover. You really have to just throw away production from last year when you're looking at numbers and analytics and all of that. What people do know, if they follow this team and look at the tape, is that they understand, that CU has some players on here, but their teams weren't very good. Similarly, we have some really talented wide receivers coming in here that were in a similar situation as CU last year with University of South Florida, with Jimmy Horn and Xavier Weaver. These are extremely talented wide receivers that did not have adequate quarterback play to showcase what they can really do. So, yeah, that I also Alt McCaskill going to be our starting running back, right? A- AAC freshman of the year, offensive freshman of the year a couple years ago. Didn't play last year because of a knee injury. I mean, all of these models are built on data at the FBS level of what have you done for me recently, and this team hasn't been built in that way. Do I feel differently about this team if there's a quarterback here that's not Shador Sanders, if it's just your normal FCS quarterback coming in here as a transfer to start? Yeah, I do. But these algorithms, these models, these computers don't understand the fact that Shador Sanders is an FBS level quarterback. He always has been. And I think at the very worst, he's a top six quarterback in this stacked conference of quarterbacks here in the Pac 12. So I think that's really my main point is that these models, they're not built right now to understand or predict what a team can do when 90% of its roster has been turned over, when you have guys coming in here playing important pieces that were playing at the FCS level, but were only playing there because they have a coach there with a gold jacket. There's a lot of factors that are very nuanced that my guess is that if Vegas is using the same computers that they do to predict all these other teams, that should work. That should work going based on recent data, performance of last year's teams, all of that coaching history. Um, it doesn't line up with how CU right now is made up, if that makes sense. So I think it's all very, very interesting. But I think that's why, again, like if I had to put the over under of win totals for this team, I think it's more reasonable to put 5.5. Like there are definitely 5 games that I feel like this football team should take care of. Of course, that's without any major injury, like any prediction is given. Um, I've been on record saying that I think this team can win 8 games. That's my official prediction for the year. I feel a little bit more comfortable at 7, but 8 is my prediction. Why not? Why not go a little bit more optimistic? Why not have some fun with this? I think CU can get an upset. Really, really, the only teams that I see giving CU trouble, um, drastic trouble, are Oregon, USC, Oregon State, and Utah. Now, I mean, with that showcase of USC still giving up 21 points to San Jose State, maybe we have the ability to, just surprise them, and I'll be at that game, cheering for the Buffs, obviously. But that is my theory. That is me trying to make sense of why we see Vegas, we see the computers drastically hate this team, but we see people who know football, who have followed this team closely, think that Coach Prime's going to do much better than 3.5 wins this year. I mean, Urban Meyer. Granted, I'm not an Urban Meyer fan, but the man knows football. He knows what a good practice looks like and doesn't. And a few weeks ago, I mean, he did not have to come out and say everything that he said about this team. He didn't have to come out and say specifically, how impressed he was with the practice, the players, all of that. So I think when you're when you're hearing that from people who actually know college football, you need to, um, that should hold some weight. So, and I think like I can't think of their names off the top of my head, but there are lesser known people, I guess, in sports media that have been following this team at a closer level than some others that consider this a worse, one of the worst rosters in college football, apparently. And they think that that CU is going to do much better than that 3.5 win total. So, yeah, let me get to the comments. I appreciate you all very much. Be sure to hit that like, checking in. Gearhead, good to see you, man. They're going to lose a lot of money if CU goes on a winning streak to start the season. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're just going to have to see how wrong these prediction models are. Maybe I'm wrong, but I have a hunch that, like I said, that the ways they go about predicting these things with their models doesn't exactly equate for specifically how this team is built. Authentics News Uncut. I really appreciate you checking me out. I know you've been in the chat before, and I appreciate your constant support. So thank you so much. Salute to David Talks Buffs. When Colorado lights up the scoreboard on Saturday, we are going to hear crickets. Man, man, I really hope so. Again, I think it's really interesting with my high level offensive preview for TCU. I mean, they're basically running a new offense as well compared to CU. I mean, they have 3 starters returning on the offensive line. We have 2, and I mean, outside of that, everybody is a new starter on that offense. I mean, same here. Same here. So yeah, I think it's really going to be a battle of whose offense is going to click first. Right now, we have the more proven quarterback. And again, this is simplified stuff, but it is football. Quarterback is definitely the most important position. And it might seem simplified, but I feel like this analysis usually helps me predict things somewhat correctly. If your team has the better quarterback, usually you have the better chance to win. And right now, I'll take Shador Sanders over whoever TCU is throwing at us. Damon, appreciate your support. You're always checking in. Interesting. However, Las Vegas does not lose very often. That's true. San Jose State has a quality football club. And I agree. That's true. I think San Jose State is quality. What I don't understand is that how people can see San Jose put up 21 points and say that we have no shot against USC, right? Um, I would like to think that by the time Week 5 rolls around, this offense is going to work out any of the wrinkles that they've needed to iron out, and they're going to be firing on full cylinders, all the cylinders, right? So we'll just have to see. But I think this whole narrative of them being worse than we were going to be last year, I think is funny. I mean, we cannot have a worse football team than we had last year. And I forget what we lost to USC by, but people are predicting that the scores will be even worse against USC and Oregon than our results were last year. I don't see that as the case. I think at least we have a puncher's chance. At least I can see scenarios now in which we can win. Am I predicting us to win either of those games against USC and Oregon? No. Becky G giving a shout out to Authentic News Uncut in the chat. Please go check him out. Again, I appreciate your support. And I appreciate your support too, Becky. That's great. And Becky, wow, he has millions of views. Good Lord, that's amazing. And Becky G, you're right. I think Colorado will have a high scoring offense. Again, we have offensive weapons here that haven't been able to show their true potential. And again, our wide receiver 1 is a player that didn't play wide receiver full time last year that I fully expect now to be playing wide receiver the majority of drives in Travis Hunter. And again, the models don't have data to go off of when it comes to this. That's just my theory. Nick, good to see you. Rico No says he's a total joke. Probably, whatever that guy's name was. It's so late that I can't even remember. Uh, I remember his name is Tom. I know he works for like Yahoo. I don't know, but it was great to see Adam Munster Tiger fire a shot at the guy. I love that. He said, "This is why ESPN's rankings are a joke." Yeah, because he also does stuff for ESPN rankings. So, yeah, like all that was so funny. And it was nice to see him fire that shot. I enjoyed it. Gearhead says, yeah, anyone who thinks that this team will be worse is clueless beyond words. How do you improve at every position group and get worse? It makes no sense. Yeah, it's like people don't. Again, a lot of people who haven't paid close attention to this football team would assume that this was a roster that had talent of like a half decent quality 5-7 team, and that's just really not the case. you know, we drastically improved again. Um, I want to say like something like around 80% of the transfers went down to Group 5 or FCS level or have yet to land with the school. You know, and a handful of our guys that are coming in here, um, they did have significant playing time in stronger conferences at stronger programs. And even if they didn't, they are a hell of an upgrade for this team and where it was at. And when you look at the coaching staff too, I mean, you got coaches that are more than qualified, excuse me, to be in their positions. I mean, Sean Lewis, head coach at Kent State. We're talking about Charles Kelly, a guy who's been a defensive coordinator before, secondary coach at Alabama, strong recruiter. Got Nick Williams. He's going to be a rising star, I think, here soon. Coaching the edge. We have Bill O'Boyle, a former head coach, that's coaching the offensive line. So, I mean, Brett Bartolone or Bartolone. I should know this by now. I should know how this is pronounced, right? Y'all got to let me know. Is it Bartolone or Bartolone? But he's a guy, again, he was calling plays. He was the offensive coordinator for Jackson State. Coming over here, I would assume making more money than he was at Jackson State. But the receivers coach now. I would assume he's the play caller in waiting for whenever Sean Lewis leaves for his next head coaching gig. But they got a lot of guys here that the Coach Prime coaching tree is something that nobody's talking about. That I think it's going to grow quickly, and it's going to be a lot of fun to follow. I mean, big win, by the way, big win for TC Taylor against South Carolina State this past week. Just total domination. Believe it was a 30-point win. Hats off to him because he's the first, I guess, the first notable one, right, in the Coach Prime head coaching tree, or maybe the first one. I think he's the first one, right? He has to be. Hawkins, good to see you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate your support as always. Damon coming in here with another comment saying, I'm not saying CU will beat TCU, but TCU will not cover the spread. Yeah, it's I, I think that's a totally reasonable take. Again, I think as a fan, obviously, I can't say that my emotions or emotional attachment to my team doesn't cloud, games that I predict that I think will be a little bit close, right? I mean, what fan doesn't do that? So I do think that this game will be close. I do think CU can win and will win. I'm hoping that they win. But if they don't, I definitely would expect them to cover that 21.5 point spread. That is absolute blowout territory. And Man, did they even beat us by 21 last year with a better team and we had a worse team? Let me just check that real quick. I can't even remember. Last year, the game was delayed here on a Friday night because it was there was a thunderstorm. I feel like it did not finish till like 1 a.m. in the morning. Okay, we lost by 25 points, 38 to 13. So I would imagine that TCU has taken a step back from their team last year. I would imagine that CU has taken a step forward. Um, does that make up for more of a, more than a 5 point improvement for the results last year? I would think so. So, yeah, y'all let me know what else you think. But I mean, uh, I'm just ready for this game to get here already. I mean, it still feels like yesterday I started this channel. And thank you so much for everybody that has supported me along the way. Just past 2,500 subscribers. It's pretty surreal, and I just have so much fun doing this. And regardless of the results that happen week by week, I'm going to be on here talking about the team. We're going to have fun doing it. Again, Colorado fans, we are pros at finding the things to root for and trying to to find the positives no matter what situation. And I think um, even if this is a team that gets 4 wins, there's going to be so much good to take from this year. I mean, there already is. So I feel like personally, myself, we're entering this season with house money, and let's just enjoy the ride, with however it goes, because it's crazy, to see us relevant, to see us first 2 weeks on Big Noon. It's crazy to see Warren Sapp here. It's crazy to see Will Wayne tweeting about us, tweeting about Coach Prime. All this stuff is surreal, and this is just the beginning. We're just getting started. So, man, again, I got some other things planned for this week. We'll take a look at the defense again. I've gotten some really cool access to some all 22 tape. So still trying to figure out what to do with that, especially since all the tape from CU that I have is totally irrelevant. But I do have TCU tape from last year, so maybe we can take a look at how they covered Baylor, or maybe some different teams that run somewhat similar styles of offense, and kind of see how they'll attack. So I'll do another kind of high end level overview of the defense later this week. We'll get into some film, like I said, with my friend John Cronenberg. Probably just breaking down that 3-3-5 that they run a little bit. And I think they had like 6 or 7 starters returning for their defense this year. So, including a CU transfer from a couple years ago, Mark Perry, their safety. A lot of y'all don't know that. So yeah, one of our good secondary players now starting his second year at TCU. So all that's going to be great. I'm still undecided on the watch party. We'll have to see, but and trying to line up some interviews. There's still so much that I need to do, so many people that I need to get back to. But I mean, that's just the nature of doing this while you still got other life things going on, right? But overall, man, life is great. I started a boxing class a few weeks ago, so that's been a lot of fun. And yeah, hoping to still stick with that. Maybe I'll fight somebody at some point, but I don't know about that. Right now, I just appreciate the cardio, and I'm going to my first striking class tomorrow. So we'll see how all that goes. So, and I think they might have me kick in too. So I think that would be a lot of fun. If you didn't know this, I like watching a lot of the UFC fights, and more so lately, I've been watching more of the top ranked boxing on ESPN. just because you don't have to pay for it. So that's been a lot of fun. But, anyways, I should probably wrap things up here. Again, let me know what you think in the comments. Hit that like on the way out. Really appreciate every single one of you. I'll be back throughout the week. And as always, Sco Buffs.